right, so we're going to begin. So we'd like to welcome everyone this evening to our Elementary Principals Restart Forum. We know that everyone is excited about the return, but we also know that everyone is a little bit nervous and people are feeling a little bit apprehensive, and that's why we are hoping to have a really great information session this evening. You will have an opportunity later on to ask some questions and get additional answers to things that maybe you did not find in our fact sheet that we had sent home the other day. And we're hoping that we can provide you with a lot of information that you have already known and things that maybe you did not know that we can again provide that information. So we'd like to start off by introducing ourselves. My name is Mr. Conroy. I'm the principal at Brookside Elementary School.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Fiorello, Berkeley School.
Hi, everyone. Mrs. Paliento, Washington School.
Good evening, everybody. Mrs. Scaduto, Jesse F. George.
And hi, everybody. I'm Mrs. Laura. I'm the elementary assistant principal.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So tonight's forum, this is what we have for you this evening. So we're excited to provide an overview of what's planned for the remainder of the school year. As you've seen throughout the course of this year and even back 1 year ago in March, things change on the fly. There's always different things that are happening, always new information that's coming out. But again, what we're going to do is we're going to do our best to provide you with all the answers to the questions that you have and give you again a nice heads up. The information that you're going to see is kind of in a bullet listed form. And the reason why we did that is we took all of the questions and the feedback that you had given us and submitted via your Google Forms and all the general inquiries that we've received over the last several days. And we kind of consolidated them because, as you could imagine, many of the questions were similar. So we tried to do our best to consolidate those to give you the exact information that you're looking for. And as we said, additional questions, if needed, they can be answered following our portion of the presentation in the Q&A piece that is you'll see on your screen. And then if any other additional questions remain, things that are school specific, what we would like to do is respectfully request that you reach out to the building principal and give you a better opportunity to have those questions answered for you based on your specific school. Okay, so where we are, what's going on right now? So we have 3 groups of students that we're working within our current hybrid model. We have students in group 1, which attend in person on Monday and Wednesday, as you know. We have students in group 2, which attend school in person on Tuesday and Thursday. And we also have our full remote cohort of all of our friends that are learning from home. We also know that students that do attend in person on a every other week basis, you either attend 3 days in person or 2 days in person that week. Our current schedule, as you see, is also 8:50 to 12:50, and we are currently running a 2 p.m. live afternoon session and group. The things that we also want you to know and information that you will get this evening is also based off of our school pandemic response team meetings and our district restart committee, also in conjunction with the New Jersey Department of Education and of course our New Jersey Department of Health. So all of those entities are involved in what's going to be presented to you this evening.
So where are we going? We have not by any means abandoned the Cali Index, which was inquired in our questionnaire form. We are still closely monitoring the Cali Index and remaining committed to those parents that are still choosing to safely send their students back to in-person learning when we are in the yellow. However, the most recent announcement of our governor stating that on March 5th, our teachers and staff are now eligible for the vaccine. We are super excited to now invite our in-person learners back to school. So we are starting on April 5th with grades K through 2 for in-person learning, and for those parents that have opted to send their students or their children back for the in-person instruction. And that week, there was questions about where grades 3 through 5 will be. They will continue to follow the April hybrid schedule that we have been consistently pushing out in our newsletters every week. Grades 3 through 5 will then be invited back on April 12th, excuse me. So the students in grades 3 through 5 will have that opportunity to attend in-person learning on those days as well. So what will the typical school day look like? very similar to what it looks like today. Our students will be here for 4 hours of in-person instruction. And of course, they will still be able to keep their masks on. They have to keep their masks on their faces. And there has been a lot of inquiry about our 2 p.m. check-in, the reason and rationale to it. So just to give you a little bit of a picture, our elementary structured day is from 8:50 to 3:20. So the students come to school at 8:50 in the morning and they're here till 12:50. From the 1 o'clock to 1:50 mark, that should be their lunch. When they get home, they should be having lunch. And that 2 o'clock to 2:40 mark is again a time that they can get online with their teacher. So we are still going to keep that 2 to 2:40 required check-in time. And that's a time that they can log in with their teacher. They can break out into rooms and have some peer interactions that maybe they were not able to get in the in-person day due to the mask wearing. And maybe those students that need the extra help or some enrichment get those services at that time. The 2:40 to the 3:20 mark, the elementary team has suggested that those are the times, or that's the time that the students can do their virtual special. So they can get online. The teachers have pushed out the schedules. So for example, if the first grader has PE on Tuesday at 2:40, that could be the time that they attend their PE session and get online and attend PE. So we are by no means, there was a question and several actually, whether we are expecting our parents to teach our students the specials. The answer to that is absolutely not. We are not by any means expecting you to teach our students how to speak Spanish or art or music for that matter. However, we are just respectfully requesting a partnership that this time, the 2:40 to 3:20, or possibly maybe while they're eating their lunch, is a time that you can just help facilitate this at home, get them online, and get them engaged within their specials. Snack. So at this time, we are not having snack indoors. It has been recommended by the district health staff, as well as the New Jersey Department of Health. And just as recently as early this afternoon, guidelines were sent out that it is not recommended that unless students are 6 feet apart, that they remove their masks specifically when eating. So realize that we have all our stakeholders involved in the decision-making process, and our school-based nurses are involved as well. And we feel that at this time, indoor snack is just not the safest decision for our students. That is only on inclement weather days. We are hoping that Mother Nature will cooperate. However, we are looking as a team that once we receive our numbers and we are committed to those numbers, we are definitely looking toward reevaluating that and seeing what we can do to possibly bring snack, even if it's inclement weather days. So again, we are asking for a partnership in perhaps giving the children breakfast before they leave home. And I know some parents had indicated in the questionnaire that my child does not get up for breakfast. Understandable, perhaps maybe a fruit bar or something in the car on the way to school. And you can also send them with their drink, a Gatorade, a water for them to keep at their desks during the day. Specials. So this is another hot topic that was in the question form. Specials are going to remain virtual. The reason for that is we want to maximize the in-person learning time that our students have with our teachers. We want to make sure that they are getting as much instructional time as possible. And in order to have those relationships and build those relationships, we are still maintaining that with our specials teachers. They are very flexible. They reach out to our students, or please parents, reach out to them. If you want that face-to-face time, they are more than willing to do that. And we also, if you have noticed in the past, you have seen our specials teachers covering for your children's classes. That is the reason why. Although we have a plethora of candidates in our sub pool, we don't have many people biting at the opportunities and the availabilities that are arising when coverage is needed. So coverage is very, very limited at this moment. So we are looking to our specials teachers to facilitate that instruction and be supportive. and providing our kids those opportunities that when they are in school. There was inquiry about band. Band will also continue their live sessions in the afternoon. The band teachers will be reaching out, and music department will be reaching out to our students and making certain that they can create a schedule with them and for them that will still provide them those opportunities that they have had. And if you have seen the Twitter pictures and the social media pictures, the students are really enjoying and loving band, and that is not something that we are ever taking off of the table. So just to continue piggybacking off of these specials, we are still providing our students physical education at minimum 1 time per week. We are very open to seeing how this process is going to take place. We are very open to getting together and refining things as we go. But as of right now, we are including physical education at a minimum of 1 time per week. And again, with Mother Nature's cooperation, we can send our kids outside for some movement and some fun outside. So the school day will continue. Of course, we do not want to eliminate our fully remote students. There was some inquiry about what their day will look like, and it will look very similar to what they are getting today. We have a district goal, and our district goal is that we want to make certain that our fully remote students are getting the same instructional experience and quality education that our kids are getting when they're in person. So our fully remote students are still going to receive those asynchronous opportunities that they have been receiving since we started this process. And that is something that we are very proud of. And we realized some parents had suggestions and some concerns about the screen time. We are more than flexible, and we are willing to be more than flexible to provide our fully remote students some offline materials that they would be able to use that you have been picking up safely outside of our buildings in the front. So please, by no means are we forcing our fully remote kids to have screen time all the time. So please keep in mind that we are being flexible with that as well, but we want to make sure that we're still giving them those opportunities. Our students that receive supportive services, their schedules will also remain the same. If they were remote students and you're choosing to send your child back to school and they receive these services, the teacher will also be reaching out and communicating with you a schedule. If they are in person, we want to take advantage of the fact that they are in person, and we're going to provide those services when they're in school with us. If they are fully remote, we are going to also reach out and make certain that they continue to get those services as well with a structured schedule. Our drop-off and pickup procedures will also be remaining the same. Each building principal will be pushing out drop-off and pickup procedures similar to what you saw back in September. There'll be a diagram of some sort of if you were fully remote and you're choosing to send your children back, of where the entry points and dismissal points are. Outside locations such as tents, that was a common thread in our questionnaire form. And while we did visit the opportunity and address the tents, we are not looking to do that at this time or make purchases of the sort. Again, it is something that can certainly be reevaluated if it is necessary, but we do think that what our plan is in place is going to be good enough and solid enough that tents won't necessarily be needed or necessary. There was inquiry about our students' belongings when they get to school. There by no means, their things are not in the middle of aisles that are going to cause hazardous pathways for them. We are making sure that their backpacks or their personal belongings are either placed on the back of their chair. We are still not using closets or cubbies in order to maintain that distancing that we want with their personal belongings. So their things will either be on the back of their chairs, and depending on the size of the classrooms, some of the students are placing their belongings under their desks or under their table.
Thank you, Christina. Each school has sent out a parent commitment form where we've asked you to choose from 2 options, either 5-day in-person instruction or fully remote. We understand that some parents are vacationing or would like to keep their children home immediately following spring break. We can understand that. And if that's the case, you simply need to just contact your school's principal via email, and that way we'll know who to expect which week. Once your child returns to school, in the event that your child is sick or needs to quarantine, your child will be able to still attend school remotely as long as they're well enough to do so. Again, you would just need to communicate that with your building principal and your school nurse so that, again, we know which students we would be expecting in person. If you have not yet completed the parent commitment form, we ask that you please do so as soon as possible after this meeting so that we can plan accordingly, as it's actually only a few days away now. Each school has sent, in the email you received from your principal last week, you saw pictures of sample classrooms. We are all in the process of preparing classrooms by removing furniture to increase the overall space, unnecessary furniture, that is. Each student will have an individual desk shield or plexiglass divider provided to them. We received questions as to whether or not this is still necessary with the new guidance from the new Department of Health. In the guidance that was released today, they stated that schools should still consider physical barriers or partitions as an acceptable mitigation strategy wherever it's feasible. So we're going to keep going with that. We do recognize that the shields that we received are not necessarily ideal. We had several comments about that. At the time that they were ordered, we had high hopes that the students would be returning to school in a short period of time. So unfortunately, the business office found that the options at that time were very limited of what we could purchase. If shields are still required next year or still recommended next year, we absolutely will look into alternatives that would be a little bit more visually appealing for the children. In the meantime, our teachers have been super thoughtful and creative in coming up with configurations so that the students can all see what's in front of them and make it work for the students. As you know, new information is released frequently and it helps to guide our decisions. We're continuously receiving updated information and guidelines from the New Jersey Department of Health, and we'll communicate any changes to you as they continue to come up.
Thanks, Ms. Paliento. I want to talk a little bit about safety and security, which is our health, our safety, our welfare. A lot of questions about what guidelines we're using and what types of protocols. So we hope to cover all those bases as well. We continue partnering with the New Jersey Department of Health and the Northwest Bergen Regional Health Commission. They recommend exactly what we need to do when it comes to quarantine and guidelines and close contacts. It's not something that we can adapt or change to meet anyone's needs. It's exactly what they tell us is exactly what we do. We keep in close contact with our school nurses, and your honesty and communication with our nurses is vital to our continued success. We've been able to open and stay open as long as we have because of your honesty and your communication. Our school nurses should be the first step with any questions, any symptoms, any information that we need to know. Please always start with our school nurses. They will guide you into next steps or some options or requirements that are needed to continue. And mind you, that is before the kids even step foot into the school building. So we really thank you for your cooperation, which also extends to our checklists every morning for students and staff. Again, your honesty and your commitment and your support is vital, and we appreciate it and know that it will continue as we move into the spring. We also continue to advise and adhere to all travel advisories and requirements. Again, letting us know if you're planning a trip, and again, starting with our school nurses, and they will be able to tell you exactly what is needed, before, during, and after your trip. Again, this is for the safety of everyone, and we appreciate your honesty. We also are continuing all of our current mitigating measures, including the checklists for students and staff. We are mandated to keep practicing all of our security and fire drills. We do adapt some of them because of the social distancing requirements, but we are in collaboration with our district security specialists and often find these times to practice and teachable moments and discuss with kids in person and remote what to do in case there's an emergency or a fire. We are also continuing our procedures of only staff and students inside the building. All of our schools have drop-off areas for parents to come and drop off and pick up some things for remote children. But again, keeping our schools inside, just students and staff will continue. Our buildings and maintenance and sanitizing and cleaning is extremely important. Our commitment remains to the health and safety of everyone. One major area of building and maintenance needs is our ventilation, and that's the exchange of fresh air. So recently, all the schools were tested with indoor air quality, including carbon dioxide monitoring. The carbon dioxide levels were all within the recommended 1,000 parts per million. These were sample classes in all the buildings. When people occupied the rooms, the parts per million went to 300, which was expected, but still well below the 1,000 parts per million. And there was no difference between older buildings, newer buildings, medium-aged buildings. Everything was pretty much standard. As we look into our next phase, we will do some additional testing and compare and contrast and assess if there's any changes. Like Ms. Scaduto had mentioned, with our warmer temperatures in spring, we hope to open even more windows because when we did the air testing, it was in January in the winter. So although windows were open, they weren't wide open in every single one, obviously because of the weather. So as we open more, that's a great way to keep that fresh air exchange. And of course, we have our ongoing filter replacement and maintenance, ensuring the unit vents and the fresh air exchange, not just changing them when recommended, but always ahead of schedule, and that's throughout the district. All of our sanitation and cleaning and disinfecting measures will continue to stay in place, whether it's our sanitizing stations, our electrostatic sprayer, a dry rag, and approved liquids and disinfectants, morning, noon, and night. And again, having the afternoon still being able to do that deep cleaning. So all those types of measures that we've been successful with will continue. Unfortunately, right now, still our playgrounds will be closed, and we assess the use of our facilities from outside organizations. At this time, we want to try to keep the traffic flow low inside. So we are still committing to just our district needs. But we hope to see our playground someday soon. But for now, we want to err on the side of caution. Let's get everybody back, and we'll go from there. So thank you again for your honesty, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. Fiorello. So in regards to the social and emotional wellness of our students, we're anticipating that the expanded capacity for increased in-person instruction will help us to reduce the overall amount of screen time for the children. In addition, the teachers will continue to provide daily movement breaks for the students through Gold Noodle or taking the children outside, weather permitting. The counselors have been using the Zensational Kids program for mindfulness activities. The counselors will also continue to teach the monthly character lessons, as well as facilitating school-wide activities such as the SEL week that we're participating in right now. And I wanted to take a minute to remind you that tomorrow is Pajama Day. Looking ahead to next year, the counselors are also in the process of researching SEL programs to best meet the needs, the social emotional needs of our children. As always, you are more than welcome to reach out to your school's counselor to address any individual concerns you may have for your children. The counselors also all maintain a website which has many more resources on there for you and your family. Lastly, Care Plus is yet another resource that the district provides for the community should you need that extra support. In regards to additional services, the Champions program will no longer provide their full day care option. However, they are offering the before and after care services 5 days a week to match our increased in-person instruction schedule. And the before and after care sites remain the same at each of the schools. You can definitely go to the Champions website for more information. After spring break, the meal distribution schedule will remain on the current schedule for the week of April 5th, meaning Group 1 will pick up their meal on Monday and Wednesday, and Group 2 will pick up their meals on Tuesday and Thursday. The following week, April 12th, is when the schedule will change, and in-person instruction students will pick up their meals on Monday and Wednesday, and remote students will pick up their meals on Tuesday and Thursday. As a reminder, please continue to put in your pre-orders for the meals, and the district food services website is available for more information. If you have further questions, please contact Barbara Ravenati in the Business Administrator's Office.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so at this time, what we're going to do is we're going to open up our question and answer session. We greatly appreciate your time this evening, and we want to be respectful of your time. So we will do our best to answer the questions with the information that we have at our hands at this time. So I'm going to stop screen sharing at this time so we can get ourselves back on, and we are going to start answering questions in our question and answer session. So moving into our question and answer session, Mrs. Paliento.
Okay, if you have questions, go ahead and you can start putting them in. We have a few to start us off. We have two currently asking about specials, when virtual specials are supposed to happen, and if students would be provided with a schedule.
So I can answer that if you'd like. So when we say that they're provided a schedule, it's just a schedule that you can use. It can be flexible. The specials teachers do post their assignments, and they give the students 1 week to complete their assignment for the week. So we just like to push out if the students have, again, world language on Tuesday, maybe to just help facilitate that process at home. If the students go home and after lunch and it's a Tuesday, they may say, oh, you know, Grandpa, Mom, Dad, I have world language today. So, you know, the parent or the adult at home helping to facilitate the process can help the child get on the world language Google Classroom and help facilitate that process as well. But typically the students do have a week to complete a special assignment. It's not, the lessons are posted. And then certainly if they want to wait till a Friday night, or you want to make it a fun family night and complete your specials, that's clearly up to you and your family and what really works behind the four walls of your home.
Okay, we have two families asking if students can start leaving their backpacks and supplies in school because they're quite heavy.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think absolutely. I think one of the things that we wanted to make sure is we wanted to make sure that the children were able to access all of their material. So that's why that we were sending everything home, because we didn't want them to be home or remote that day and then not be able to participate in instruction because of not having everything that they're there. So trust me, we understand the weight of the backpacks. We all have kids in there lugging their backpacks home as well. And we absolutely empathize and sympathize in that, and just pulling those backpacks out of the car in the morning is a workout in of itself. So yes, that is absolutely something that we are addressing, and we will be sending that home individually to all of our families. But yes, you will see a nice decrease in weight of those backpacks.
Okay, our next question, what is the school filtration number? And that is that I can answer that one. Our systems are designed to provide ample fresh air exchange through the use of MERV 8 filters. Our next one, physical education and recess often occurs with combined classes. Will this change?
I'll take it, sure. What we've done is we have a square footage assessment of our phys ed spaces of our gym. We will be staggering recess time, so classes have enough room outside to kind of claim their own space, for lack of a better term, and to make sure that everyone has ample distance between each other. It is a little bit difficult at times based off of what the schedule looks like, but we're going to make sure that everyone has a fair opportunity to do so. The other piece of that in phys ed classes is sometimes, again, depending on the size of our gyms, there is a capacity, and we're also going to look at what the Department of Health statutes are with that capacity and what that number is. Of course, being whether it's the 3 feet or 6 feet that they're looking for with masks on, we then will be able to determine what that number of students is, probably somewhere between 20 and 30, up to 35 students for the larger gymnasiums. But that is, again, just a guesstimate right now, but we will be sending that information home as well, so you have an exact number.
And piggybacking on that, we have a question. If children are currently eating snack in the gym, why is the gym no longer an option in phase 2? And the answer for that is simply because of the number of students, especially at schools like Brookside, which he has, I think, over 400 students. The snack would have to start at, the moment the kids walked in the door in order to have children spaced out at 6 feet throughout that whole day, which really isn't optimal. And then if you're also thinking you're rotating all of those children throughout the day in one enclosed space, even if it is a large space. So that is why.
And we hope to also use the gyms on rainy days for some physical activity with the kids, which goes to our physical education classes. Therefore, the reason behind the indoor snack.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of layers to everything, I know.
Yes. How will bathrooms be monitored at this time?
I think what we have done so far is we've asked the teachers to kind of really be aware of the students that they do send. In some of our schools, we're fortunate enough to have bathrooms in some of the classrooms, so the teachers monitor that much more easily than other schools who may not have bathrooms in their classrooms. Again, another scheduling piece that the principals will be actively working on with their teacher leaders and with the classroom teachers as well, to make sure that there are specific times. We do send our custodial staff in several times a day, usually anywhere between 30 minutes and 40 minutes, to spray down, use Mr. Fiorello noted before, the electrostatic sprayers to go in and to spray down all of the bathrooms, both the student bathrooms and the staff bathrooms as well.
Okay, why were George and Washington School closed on Monday? As Dr. Gonzalez's email said, that was a recommendation from the health department. So when they tell us that we have to close, that's what we do. Next, in the unfortunate event a student tests positive for COVID, will the classroom transition to remote for quarantine time? What is the process and communication?
So we do not, we're keeping our fingers crossed that does not happen. But what is that? Yes, classrooms will transition to remote learning. And again, depending on what the situation is, and anytime that we've received any of the school, when I say we, any of the schools have received a positive result from one of our students, what we do right away is we meet with our health department, with our school nurses and the district head nurse, Mrs. Penn. What we then do is we go into Genesis and we essentially type in that student's name who we received the information on. What we do next is we run a contact trace on that student. And what that contact trace does is it brings up in Genesis all of the students, adults, anyone who has had contact with that specific person. And then that gives us the opportunity to reach out to families either individually, which some of you have received that individual phone call or that individual email, or many times you will see in our communications that if you haven't been contacted, there's no reason to quarantine at this time. That's because that whoever your child is would be considered either a non-contact or a tertiary contact, which means that they did not have direct contact with that individual. We take our positive test date and we roll it back 2 days, and we start our contact tracing within those 2 days. But essentially what would happen is, yes, they would go to all remote. Hopefully, again, hopefully it doesn't happen. Again, fingers crossed. But if it does, it would be just that quarantine period.
And then if I can just piggyback off of that, I realized that the question before came out about the students taking their supplies home. And as much as we do realize that their backpacks are heavy, I think it's safe to say that they should still continue to transport their Chromebooks at least back and forth in case that we have these emergency closures. Their instructional day is not impacted, that they can still continue those experiences from home. And our teachers have been absolutely amazing in the practice of pivoting. They can do that in the drop of a hat, and they are ready and prepared to do that when they need to. So we do realize that the backpacks are heavy, but we still want to make certain that in lieu of a closure, God forbid, that the students are still prepared and ready.
Great.
Okay. If we send our child to school but want to change later to fully remote, will you allow it, and what is the process?
So I can answer that.
Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have remained flexible and will continue to do so. We have conversations with our parents, and we want our families to feel nothing but safe and secure when their children are being sent to school. So the process would be to just reach out directly to the building principal, and we will gladly accommodate the request and honor the request of when you are comfortable sending your child back to school, or vice versa.
Are the children going to be tested for COVID by the school randomly? No,
At this
We
time,
don't do that.
definitely not. When will we be informed of the return to a full day of 8:40 to 3 o'clock? Will we know this before June?
Right now, we continue to take our directives from the Department of Health and from, our school health office, our school health services. We would like nothing more than to come back to a full day of school. But again, right now, based off of where we are and what we have been advised to do, we're just excited about getting the kids back as to our shortened day, our shortened in-person day, excuse me. But yes, that is something that we're hoping to be able to push out to the community, but something that has to be discussed by another level than the elementary principals.
Is it possible for specials to be provided live virtually?
So I can answer that. Right now, it is not, only because we actually share specials teachers. So myself and Mrs. Paliento share teachers, and Mr. Conroy and Mr. Fiorello share teachers. We do encourage our specials teachers to make their lessons as interactive and recorded if they can. Again, they are more than willing. If you reach out, they will definitely reach out if you can, if you're looking for something like that. And I know that came up a lot in the question form, that your children miss the specials teachers and the relationships that they have with them. And we can certainly understand that. But our specials teachers are still doing everything that they can. They are based within their home buildings. They are not traveling. So in order to do live lessons and get both schools in would be an extremely tedious process, and they would be covering classrooms at certain times when it's unexpected. So right now it is not, that's not going to be feasible, but it's something that the specials teachers are looking to continue those relationships via their virtual platforms.
Going off of that question, another parent has asked if, for working parents who are not home during the time their children are completing art, for example, can our students bring in their completed artwork versus having to upload the artwork on Google Classroom?
I think the art teachers would probably greatly appreciate that.
Mhm.
We are all craving in-person tangible things. So I do think that the specials teachers would greatly appreciate that. I know there have been bins placed outside of our buildings where the students are placing their art projects or placing their assignments in those bins. The children have become great at recording their assignments on Flipgrid. but certainly that the in-person is going to happen. Yes, we would definitely love for the students to be bringing in their art projects. Our walls are craving their work. So absolutely.
When will homework assignments begin?
Well, hopefully that students have been participating in some work at home after hours. I know that again, we did not, and teachers did not want to tax parents after long days and these long virtual days of then having some more, let's say, difficult evenings where you're trying to then play assistant teacher and trying to get your kids to finish assignments. I think for right now, again, reading is the number one thing that we always ask all of our elementary students to do each night. So that is the greatest thing that they can do. And as we move forward in this process and everyone gets a little bit more comfortable, I'm sure you will see the homework assignments pick up little by little. We really need the kids to get back into the groove of coming to school on a daily basis and become acclimated in what it is to be back in a classroom full of other friends. So we're going to do our best to make that happen. But yeah, you will see those assignments progress as we move forward.
Will basic skills be offered while in school or virtually at the regular time?
Most likely a combination of both, but with the return of kids in school, we hope to offer more in-person type of instruction.
And I think each basic skills teacher will reach out to her particular students to relay that information.
Yes, Ms. Paliento, you are correct.
How will the warmer weather be handled since most rooms are not air conditioned and the children have masks on?
One of the nice things that happened is that to the unfortunate circumstances is, we really made a concerted effort in all of our buildings to address the upper ventilation system, meaning the roof fans, and getting those fans working in optimal condition. They were always working, but just to kind of make sure that the belts may be a little bit tighter and the airflow was moving even stronger through the hallways. I can only speak for Brookside School in saying that, we do not have all of our classrooms air conditioned, but upstairs is a marked difference when you have all of the windows open and the doors open, and the breeze that comes in and out of the rooms is actually refreshing. Now, absolutely moving into the warmer weather, we all have stations in our schools that we deem as cooling stations. We have the ability to go outside for teachers to, find a shady spot under a tree or give the kids a break. And as Mrs. Scaduto had mentioned earlier, that they will have their water with them at all times, and so we want to make sure that they're hydrated. But it's going to be kind of a chess match as we move forward, and we're going to do our best to make sure that, as we said before, the health, safety, and welfare of the kids is our number one priority, and we're going to look after them to the best of our ability.
When will we have an indication of the predicted class size? I think that would probably be a question for your individual principal. I know anybody that has reached out to me, I've just let them know how many people have responded up to date. I would think in the next few days, we would have that information pretty locked down.
I believe our commitment form closes Friday, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like Mrs. Paliento said in her presentation, the sooner those commitment forms arrive, the faster we can get those numbers out to all of you.
Can you expand on how you think September will look? Do you anticipate that we will be back full days with lunch?
It's hard to say. We certainly hope so, but we will await guidance and guidelines, but we all wish we had that crystal ball. We don't have it yet, so we all have to wait. I'm sorry. We hope we can, though.
Agreed. Will all teachers and aides be vaccinated before June?
Currently, it is not a mandate. It is personal preference. So it is not at this time something that is mandated, and it is confidential. It is up to each individual person.
But
We've had plenty of opportunities for staff to be vaccinated. The district has been fortunate in providing locations and appointments, and Ms. Penn, our head nurse. So the increase of availability has been wonderful, but it is not mandated, and it's a personal choice.
With all of the social distancing measures in place, can you please provide the reasoning behind not having full day instead of the short day for in-person instruction?
A lot of it is depending on our lunch and recess, especially having to take those masks off to eat at our locations of our cafeterias and the size. That is at this time, one of our major hurdles that we haven't been able to jump over yet. That's the main reason.
Other districts are providing crates to hold student belongings by their desks. Is that something being considered? I think that is a little bit different at each school. I know most of mine are doing something like that in my classrooms. I don't know what the rest of you.
It varies on space and resources, but anything that we can do to assist is on the table. That's not something that's forbidden or anything, but it's all about.
Yeah, that's a perfect email to your building principal. Absolutely.
Has the district considered purchasing fans for windows to create better ventilation? When you referenced MERV 8, is that for areas with an HVAC system?
I think the district is doing a great job in monitoring the ventilation. So the fans have not been something that we think would be necessary, considering that we continue to monitor that.
Yeah, the way that most of our schools, our ventilation systems work, and again, Mr. Fiore will correct me because Berkeley is the veteran school and district, is that the unit ventilators run constantly in the classrooms. What happens is the intake from the outside takes all the fresh air or any fresh air from the outside, and that's what gets blown into the room. It gets filtered into the unit ventilation system, and then that gets passed out through the system that then provides that fresh air into the classroom, which is constantly being recirculated through the ceiling fans, through the attic fans, the roof fans, which then take it out through the hallway and up out and through the roof of the building. So there is no stagnant air in any classrooms at any time. The air is constantly moving, the fans are constantly running, and that's something that all of our teachers know, that those fans, that those unit ventilators need to be uncovered and those fans need to be running at all times.
We can also ask our buildings and grounds director for a little bit more information about that, and we will put it into our frequently asked questions that we will send out again tomorrow, updated. We have a question, sorry if it was already said, she said, the week after spring break for 3rd through 5th grade, will it be regular hybrid schedule that week? Yes, it will be the regular hybrid schedule that week for 3rd through 5th.
And make sure to embed the April hybrid schedule into our newsletters at the end of this week.
Yes. Are you going to continue to quarantine the entire class if a child or teacher tests positive, or will you use seat maps and only quarantine those seated within 6 feet of the person who tests positive? I can take that one. That's really difficult in an elementary school because our children rarely sit at their desks for 4 hours straight, even though the desks are separated or the tables are separated. We have them getting up for movement breaks. We take them outside for snack. They might go down the hall to go out the recess doors, the outdoor doors to go to gym. So it's very difficult for us to guarantee that the children are within further apart than 6 feet all day long. So that's what makes it a little bit more complicated when the children are little. And especially if it's a teacher, our teachers, you know, when they're conferring, they're up a little bit closer with them. Of course, they have their masks on, but you know, we continue to take our direction from the health department. And when we are contact tracing, those are questions that are asked of the teacher and of the students, and we look carefully at it. And it's not, of course, we would rather not quarantine a whole class, but we also just want to make sure that we're really careful that we're quarantining anybody that really should be quarantined.
It makes us feel safer erring on the side of caution. So that's really what we tried to do.
Mhm. What is the status on state assessments?
As of now, they are, I believe the quote was postponed and we are still waiting for further guidance, but we're planning for the late spring just in case, but there hasn't been anything final yet.
Mhm. Are you looking to secure tents to use in bad weather for snacks or even mask breaks? If they were of no cost to the school, would the school use them? You did answer.
No, I think that is something that we absolutely are looking at. And we're trying to figure out what is the best way to acquire that equipment, and really what size tents do we have? Where do we put them? There's a lot of logistical things that go into that we have been talking about for weeks, and things that are still on the table. Is it off the table completely? No, absolutely not. Go ahead, Mr. Vero.
I agree with you, Mr. Conroy. There's so many layers, especially most of our classes will have around, if not more than 20 kids. So you're thinking about tables, chairs that need to be more than 6 feet apart for such a large area. So there's a lot of layers to it, but it's definitely something that's on our radar.
What is the difference between the May 15th start and the returning after spring break surge dates? I'm not sure if I understand that question.
I guess I'll try to guess what the comment was about. The May 15th date is for anyone who had said full remote within their commitment form. That is the date where we will then send out another form asking anyone who was all remote if you would like to come back as a full-time in-person student. So that will be the first time that anyone who is designated as all remote will have then the opportunity to come and to be a 5-day in-person student.
How are you addressing parents not wearing masks on school grounds?
It's an uncomfortable conversation to have. What we do is we can only ask. We can only ask, and we can respectfully request. But as you've seen over the course, you've seen it on TV every single day. There are many people that are not adhering to what the recommendations are, and that's exactly what they are, as recommendations. And we're not at liberty to, nor really that we should be going around and policing people. We're hoping that everyone is doing the right thing, especially if you're around people who you haven't been around before. There's really no reason while on school property that a mask is not be worn. Again, we would respectfully request that happens on all of our campuses, not only in the elementary schools, but in the middle school and the high school as well. And we, our numbers, transmission rate within school, as you've read historically through September through now, have been low, and there's a reason for that. It's because we've worked really hard in making sure that the kids are masked, that the teachers are masked, and that the adults that are around them are masked. So if we can keep that going, then the feasibility of increased time in school is something that we can look at even much closer as those numbers go down in our guidance from the Department of Health changes.
During the initial transition, if we have a second grader and another child in grades 3 through 5, will the teachers ensure that they can finish a bit earlier to allow for the pickup of the second grader, or allow for some flexibility? I'm sure all of our teachers will be very flexible with you. Just let them know, and they'll take care of that. Will there be hand washing breaks for kids in school?
That's always. So they hand wash.
Stay long.
Yes, they definitely hand wash before and after snack. They hand wash after the bathroom use. So yes.
Okay. Is the 2 p.m. check-in mandatory?
So it is part of the school day, as was referenced in the presentation. The student school day is 8:50 to 3:20. Certainly there has been certain things that have popped up where students cannot make the 2 p.m. check-in. But we do encourage our kids to get on there with and re-meet with their teachers and with their peers as part of their school day. So if we're looking to get these kids back in full time, getting them acclimated to that time and getting them that teacher time is part of a nice practice to get them prepared. So they've been on this schedule for quite some time. So we want to kind of still sustain their schedule, and that's part of their day.
We have a few people asking, again, bringing up the specials and asking why they cannot be live. And I think we did answer that, but I think it's really, you have to think that because we share them and they're once a week, you'd then be live with a very large amount of people in one grade. And if you're thinking of it that way, it just doesn't, it's not going to be that much of an improved experience for the child, because it's essentially going to be just like a recording would be, because they can't interact with 100 children at once.
Mrs. Paliento, can I just piggyback on that for a second? I'm so sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, we understand how frustrating that is, and we value our specialists, and we value the arts and the things that the kids may not be getting that they normally get. Another big part of this is that as Mrs. Scaduto, Mr. Fiorello, Mrs. Lohr, Mrs. Paliento, and everyone who has had conversations with us we've identified, is that the substitute pool is extremely small. And when some of us only have maybe 1 or 2 substitutes that are willing to come into our schools. And at times we have absolutely no one to come into our schools. So then what do? We take those specialists, whether it's art, music, phys ed, media, whatever the case may be. And we have to have a body in the classroom with the children that are in. So teachers are still taking, personal days. They still have sick days. They still have things that they are, that they're not able to make it to school that day for whatever reason, but we still have children that need to be supervised. And unfortunately, we have to pull those teachers. So, whereas we would love for that to happen, and hopefully our substitute pool will increase. And if that happens, then that's really more of a viable option. But unfortunately, that decision is really just based off of personnel and lack thereof. Sorry, Ms. Paliento.
That's okay. During inclement weather days, is it possible for the students to eat snack at their desks with their shields on? Again, that was in the guidance that was released today from the Department of Health, but that's not what they're recommending. So I don't think any of us are comfortable going against what the Department of Health is recommending. Would the parameters used to determine if a class or school goes remote for 2 weeks be the same going forward as it has been in the past months?
It all depends on the case and the guidance. Every case is different. It could be longer. It all depends. And again, we take that guidance from the local health department.
Will the students who are in BSI, Basic Skills, or the CARES Act miss the afternoon live instruction by the classroom teacher? No, the CARES Act classes take place after school.
Mrs. Lohr?
Yeah, they should not be missing the live instruction at 2 o'clock, because the tutoring sessions happen from 3:30 to 4:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And I do believe there's times where, regular basic skills or ELL, those types of support services have a flexible schedule. So there may be times, but again, it's all up to the teacher discretion.
Mm-hmm. If a whole class is shut down for a positive case and my child tests negative, can she return sooner?
Again, those mandates come from the local health department, and all the guidance comes right from there. So as of now, no. And we listen. They give us a time frame of when children can return regardless of symptoms or tests. The only thing that has changed is with the travel guidance when returning from a trip. After 3 or 4 days, you can test, but you still have to quarantine for a week anyway. But again, that guidance comes straight from our local health department that we follow to the T.
There's a few here saying Murphy is expecting all schools to open up in September. Why can't our district answer the question? We are open right now, so we fully intend on being open in September. I think the question that was asked before was, would we be open full day? And of course, as we said, that's our hope. But we just simply don't have that answer right now. And especially with things changing so much from day to day, we just can't give you a solid answer at this moment. Is it possible to purchase portable HEPA filters per classroom with MERV 13 filters?
That is something that that's not a school-based decision. That is a district decision that would have to be discussed at the board of education level. On this, we're not at liberty to make decisions in that case.
In electric capacity, there's a lot of layers to that as well.
Why weren't clear plexiglass barriers purchased for desks instead of the ones with the white solid sides? I addressed that in earlier, maybe you missed it. Some of our classrooms do have plexiglass instead. At the time that they were ordered, we were short, we anticipated that we were short on time, and we didn't have those available to us to get in the time frame that we thought we had. So we, moving forward for next year, fully intend on finding ones that have more visibility for our students.
And it also depends on the school and the classroom. Some schools don't have individual desks at all, so all they have is tables, so that was the option that was needed. I think.
If a student starts in person and then we decide to shift back to all remote, is that an option? Yes. They said apologies if this was already answered. It was, but that's okay. Yes, you absolutely can switch back. What is the plan for summer enrichment for children that need it as a result of remote hybrid learning? Many students will be far behind.
So right now the district is planning on having a summer acceleration program. And also our Title I and Title III programs will be running as always. It's going to be a 4-hour, 8:30 to 12:30 program running the month of July. Right now, the criteria is still being decided on, and it will be based on an invitation-only basis. We should be getting more information out to the community in the next month.
Okay. If a child is having difficulty seeing the teacher's screen while in person due to the current desk shields, is there anything that can be done to assist them? I think that what I mentioned about our teachers getting creative, they're absolutely asking the students what their experience is. And then if they are having trouble, the teacher's going to do everything they can to move things around and shift things around to make it work. So I would say yes. I would definitely, if that is the case, I would definitely reach out to your child's teacher to talk to them about it.
And we can tell you the kids are very good at raising their hand and saying, I can't see. So we definitely can accommodate them if they cannot.
Can students still sign up for the CARES Act tutoring?
Right now, the CARES Act tutoring program is also on an invitation-only basis. We've been using the criteria of inviting students who are currently in the basic skills program. I have been in contact with the school counselors and the BSI teachers to identify those students who would benefit from the tutoring program. If you have additional questions, please feel free to email me directly.
For a class with a larger number of students and adults, has it been considered to use any of the larger rooms? For example, the media center for them instead of the classroom?
Yeah, I think that is pretty much on a school by school basis. Some of our rooms, based off of the current numbers, we're able to have that 6-foot separation between between the students. Some, a little bit less, but I know that all of the administrators on the screen are literally walking room to room with their maintenance staff and with their custodians to measure out desks and to make sure that they are as far apart as possible, as Mrs. Valiento said in the very beginning about taking out unnecessary furniture, and Mrs. Scaduto said about what the rooms will look like. I think the largest classes, and correct me if I'm wrong, are probably around 24 or 25 students. Again, each administrator will have to look at what room that is specifically, and then make that determination based on the available space.
And also just to piggyback off of that, some of those larger classes are co-teaching sections. So those need to remain that way. So I think that's also where the question was deriving from. So a lot of our higher populated classes are co-teaching sections. So there's 2 teachers in the classroom. So to separate the kids in separate rooms would not be, we can't do that.
Okay, I was wondering if you could break down what would cause us to close a whole school from cases versus a particular class.
I think that goes back to our contact tracing. And once we put those names into Genesis and run that contact trace on the days that have been designated as possible exposure dates, that would then open up whether or not that those cases have crossed over. I think when those cases cross over classrooms, that's where then you see the larger closings. And then again, when we look at the COVID index that we referenced in the very beginning, we've stayed open at a green, yellow, and orange. If it were ever to move to red, that is a mandatory closing. So we are, again, doing our best to make sure that again, masks are on, sanitation is happening, disinfecting is happening. Our hand washing is paramount as well, and keeping everyone safe.
Also, a really important distinction for when we're contact tracing is that if they are unable to find the point of where the COVID originated, if we have a case and we don't know where it came from, I think that's where it starts to get into, it takes a lot longer, and people are not always forthright with information when they're talking to the health department, which can then make it take longer and cause it to be a problem. So that's another important piece. If you know exactly where it came from, then that's easier, because then it didn't come from school. But if there's any thought that it might have come from the school, then that's when it's taken a lot more seriously and takes a lot more time.
And our local health departments have more details as well. And if they suggest that we close, we close.
Exactly. Regarding Chromebooks, if my child has a computer available at home, would the student be able to leave the Chromebook in school?
Yeah, I think so. The caveat there is making sure that it's charged. So, we no longer have the full charging stations that we used to have in the carts in the classrooms, where the students would return their Chromebook to a cart and then they would be able to charge for the evening. So I think really the number one thing was to making sure that Chromebook is fully charged for the next day's instruction.
And has the capability of everything that we needed to do from school, whether it's iReady and Classroom and all that as well.
Right. We have a question about if there's a medical issue, would a child be able to have a snack during inclement weather? And the answer is absolutely. We will work with any family that has any sort of a medical problem that would require them to eat. This one is kind of building specific. Does the speech teacher no longer travel between schools? I'm not sure if any of us have that.
Yeah, the speech therapist at Brookside School does travel currently. Mr. Fiorello?
Yes, our speech teacher travels to one other school because it's a caseload that's a mandate therapy sessions.
Will screen time be minimized during in-person instruction? And can Chromebooks be left at home during the in-person days?
We are doing our best to work with teachers to minimize the amount of screen time that the kids have. We fully understand how taxing it's been on everyone to sit at a screen all day long, and it's so difficult to learn in that way. You know, we don't want to say that the Chromebooks could be left at home, because in the upper grades as well, especially knowing that they have the possibility of standardized testing, those tests are done on a Chromebook. So we have been working with the students in their comfort level, and we know that they're so much more comfortable now than they've ever been. But as of right now, we would respectfully request that those Chromebooks come in every day.
If a child has antibodies and a class has to quarantine for 2 weeks, is there any way that that child could stay in school?
At this time, again, the guidance comes from our local health department, and I haven't seen, and I could be misspeaking, but I don't believe that makes a difference at this point. But again, the guidance comes from our health department.
Right. I understand there are certain challenges with social distancing, but has been there any consideration with incorporating recess into the day?
Physical activity and breaks and such, you know, is happening now.
Yeah, I
And
think that's why we wanted to put the phys ed in. But we also want to be cognizant that we only have the students for 4 hours a day. So it's a balance, I think. A few people are asking what percentage of teachers have been vaccinated.
We don't have that information yet. You know, hopefully, as things happen, again, it's Mr. Fiorello said before, it's not mandatory, and it is a privacy issue. So we kind of tread lightly on that. The district has done a wonderful job of setting up opportunities, though, for teachers to be vaccinated. Dr. Gonzalez and the board, their approval to get these along with Mrs. Penn and our district health professionals have done a wonderful job in making that happen for staff.
And also remember, even, you know, if staff are vaccinated at this time, they're not required to inform us. So even if we're looking at numbers, people can keep their privacy respected, and, you know, we don't have a mandate that people have to report to us if they're vaccinated, period. So even that type of data gathering is not 100%. Again, privacy.
What is the quarantine period if a student or teacher contracts COVID? Do they have to be negative before they return to school?
The guidelines from our health department set a time limit regardless of negative tests or not. So again, it's the time frame that's given to us from the health department.
And our school-based nurses are amazing in things like that. They will reach out to our families and let them know what the timeline is and the safe return date. So if that's a question that, God forbid, your family is facing, you know, you always reach out to our nurses. They are more than happy to give that information on when it's safe for the return.
And to piggyback on that, if we travel, do our kids have to quarantine, and how long?
They do. There's guidance that came out from the Department of Health. After about 3 days returning from the trip, well, let me back up. You have two options, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. The first option is when you return about 3 to 5 days in, taking a COVID test, and if it's negative, you can't return on that date. You still have to quarantine for the 7. Or the other option is doing the 14 with no test. So the short answer is yes, you have to quarantine regardless of test results. The time frame, however, could change for travel only.
Does the county health department recommend different guidelines per town regarding full days, recess, playground equipment, and lunch, or is this a district decision? I think every district is very different, especially, you know, in terms of full days, playground equipment, and lunch. We all have a different capacity. We all have a different number of students enrolled. So I think those are all individual district decisions, but the county health department certainly advises us and advises the superintendent in what they think is safe or not safe. So we're always in contact with them and able to ask them questions.
And we always have to go by time. You know, that's the hardest thing to do is what we, again, you know, we use the phrase respectfully request, and it's the truth. We really do. You cannot get into comparing other towns because every town is completely different. Every town's rate of transmission is different. Every town's positivity rate is completely different. So the only people that are making that decision, number one, is the Department of Health in the town, and then the Department of Health in the county and Bergen Regional Medical Center. So you know, those are the people who are going to make the final decision as to whether or not our town and our district is ready to either increase capacity, which we are currently doing, or we are able to open for a full day, in quotes, what a normal school day would look like.
Will there be a test out option for children if they are quarantined? I think
Regular quarantines, no. Travel, yes, but still quarantine time.
What is the protocol in the event that a teacher contracts COVID during spring break? What will happen to the in-person learning for that class?
Depending
So-
on, sorry, Ms.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Regardless of timing, you know, if a staff member tests positive for COVID, whatever their recommendations are from the contact tracing and their local health department, you know, is conveyed to our school nurse and to our administration. And depending on each instance, you know, sometimes the working remotely from home is an option. Sometimes it's not. It depends actually on each case. But regardless, you know, whatever they need to do from their health departments and in conjunction with us, you know, they'll have to quarantine.
To follow up on that,
Special teachers and subs and sorry.
To follow up on that, how will you confirm that families who travel over the break will quarantine? How will you protect my learners from those who choose not to?
You know, as we touched upon throughout the whole evening, you know, honesty from everyone and communication is the key. Can we guarantee that we are informed of all travel plans? No, the short answer is unfortunately no. But you know, the communication between parents and the schools have been wonderful, and we want it to continue to be wonderful. We have no reason to believe that it won't be wonderful. But the short answer is if we don't know about a travel plan, I can't confirm that there are no travel plans. It's up to us working together.
Agreed. Will the students that have to go to aftercare be excused from the 2 o'clock Zooms?
I believe they still do some of their Zooms and work through Champions in the afternoon.
Yes, I know that's the case here.
Whatever has been happening will continue to happen.
Who is doing visual inspections of kids in the mornings? How will this work with masks, and why not take temperatures?
So we are still encouraging the home screening, that parents are doing the home screening from home. We have still been doing screenings since September, even though the kids are still in masks. So we continue that procedure whenever they're getting out of the car and they're getting, the doors are getting opened for them and they're coming into the building. There is supervision throughout the building, and there are eyes on our students, and we're checking them out. When they get into the classroom, the teacher is doing the same. So, and they have been wearing masks, and we have been successful. I don't want to speak that loud, but we have been successful in doing that as well.
Okay, I have 2 questions that sort of go together, so I'm gonna put them together. Hold on, I got bumped. Are there any plans to extend the school day to longer than a half day? And then along with that, what is the rationale for us opening 5 half days when some other towns opened prior to us?
At this point, our plans are until 12:50 in person. Until that can change or would change, everything can change, but at this point, we are sticking to our 12:50 half day. We would love to extend it, but at this point, it's not an option for us, but we continue to evaluate and see what we can do. But we're looking forward to having those 5 days of in-person with our half days.
We spoke about teachers utilizing outside space for classes, especially during the warmer weather. If the teachers are teaching both at home and in-person students at the same time, how is this possible? And do we have the technology for teachers to teach at home students from outside?
It varies, but I know it's attempted all the time and it's tried, and it all depends on the timing of the day and what is needed for that instruction.
Yes, I know I've had students pretty far away from the building able to have their Chromebooks and participate in breakout rooms outdoors. So I think that it is possible just by taking the Chromebooks outside.
But it varies, but yes.
It varies, yeah. Will classified students have opportunities to be a part of the 2 o'clock with the mainstream teacher? That might be a building specific question, but I would think so.
Most times, but I know, if you think about a classified student for language arts or for math, and if that teacher needs, their resource teacher needs to see them at 2, I would assume that would take precedence over something that's not language arts or math. But again, it varies and up to teacher discretion.
Sorry. There's a few questions of asking us to be a little bit more clear about switching back and forth from remote to in-person and the May 15th date. Somebody said, if we're switching back and forth, then what's the purpose of the Google form? I think we don't want people switching back and forth often, per week, or certainly not for individual days. I think we would like to know what your intent is, but we also don't want to lock you in if in 2 weeks, if you suddenly feel uncomfortable because of rising rates in our area, we of course want you to have that option to always keep your child at home. But that doesn't mean that we want them to be in and out, in and out. It's a fine balance.
And at the same time, we don't want to pressure our parents in making a decision. So we have a May 15th date, just to give our parents some type of direction, but at the same time, without giving them the uncomfort that a decision has to be made. So please realize we see all spectrums. We see parents that are ready and willing and want their kids here 5 days a week. We have those that are absolutely not, they're keeping them remote. And then we have ones that are teetering and are unsure. So to strap them down into making a specific decision at a specific time is not what we like or what we want to do. So we still want to make sure that we remain flexible in that regard.
What type of face coverings are suggested for students? Are there any that are not recommended?
They have to cover the nose and the mouth and secured behind the ears. So the ones that, what are they called? Gators? I know I'm not as hip as I may look.
Oh, yeah.
They are not allowed. So they have to have the ear tie and the nose and the mouth. And Mr. Conroy, you could stay silent. Thank you. Next.
We have a man who has asked that we ask for the specific number of air changes per air when we talk to our director. I took a note of that, and we will ask him, and we'll let you know the answers. We'll put it in the FAQs. Are teachers and staff doing daily home screening? Yes, they are also. Is the afternoon Zoom required? We did answer that one before.
Part of our school day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How is learning loss being assessed and addressed for the different grades? And how will 5th graders be assessed in preparation for middle school?
So that's an ongoing conversation we're having with Dr. Mortimer and the Curriculum and Instruction Office. We are looking at our curriculum for next year to look at where some of those learning gaps may occur. There's going to be a lot of summer curriculum writing done with our elementary curriculum coordinator and looking ahead for the priority content in math and in ELA standards. And as Dr. Mortimer had mentioned in a Board of Ed meeting, that we're going to be looking at just-in-time lessons of when we come across a skill and we're finding that the students need additional support or they need to go back to a previous grade levels standard, what that's going to look like. And we are working closely at that over the summer, and we'll be pushing that out to the teachers for next year.
Thank you. Are teachers able to voluntarily share that they were vaccinated?
I guess that would be up to them.
Yeah, that would be a personal decision, sure. It was already talked about. I have concerns about the children going so long without having a snack during inclement weather days. Is it possible to revisit this? Come up with a creative solution.
So again,
Yeah, sorry, Mrs. Caduto.
that's okay. So we're looking for Mother Nature to cooperate, obviously, for warmer weather days. So the kids can definitely bring a snack every day. But we are looking to reevaluate and reassess that once we see this all come to life. Just as we did back in September, we told the teachers to please experiment and do, everything that they can to try everything, trial and error. We're going to be in the process of doing the same. So the snack is nothing that is set in stone. It's something that we will, look at and reevaluate and revisit when the time comes.
Can the 2 p.m. be used to bring struggling kids back into the building for one-on-ones or small groups, seeing as remote is extremely difficult for many struggling students?
I think that's something that, would need to be discussed further as, then, the kids are remote for a reason, and not wanting to have them then come into a place that has just been occupied by a significant number of students. We don't want to say it's completely off the table in the future, but as we roll into this second phase of returning kids to school, that's not something that we were planning on having happening at this time.
We also are using those afternoons for thorough cleaning of all of the classrooms and taking advantage of that extra time. So that's another reason. At what point will remote only not be an option, or is this a wait and see? That's
When
a wait
our
and see.
governor says so.
Yes, that comes straight from our governor. What is the percentage of parents who want 5-person days as opposed to fully remote? I think that varies from school to school. Right now, I believe I have about 20 that have asked for fully remote, but I still have about 50 that haven't answered yet. But that would be different for every school.
Yeah, a lot of us, with just preliminary numbers, I know that we were all probably in the mid 90s. Again, just based off of the numbers that we were receiving of people that were looking forward to having their kids come back to 5 days. 90 percentage-wise, sorry.
What kind of SEL learning opportunities are being addressed to combat some of the stress and mental health concerns this pandemic has caused?
That's a great question.
So I think that, as I mentioned, your school-based counselors are there to support you and your family. They are continuing to do those lessons, and they are meeting individually with students virtually and in person. So if you have any concerns for your own child and any difficulties they may be having, please reach out to your school counselor.
And we have sent home a lot of SEL resources, as Mrs. Laura had indicated on the counseling website. But what we also did as elementary schools and with our elementary counselors, we had looked at Castle's SEL roadmap to return to school, and we had utilized those resources in our back to school planning. all of which broke into the four different parts of what is encompassed in social emotional learning. So we had originally worked with our staff on understanding what it is that the kids are going to experience on their, coming back into school. We also addressed staff wellness and what their social emotional well-being is, to get them prepared for the school year and to assist them in any way that we can moving forward. So as Mrs. Lord said, it's a team effort and something that we continue to work on every day.
Okay, I saved my favorite question for last. If you could pick 2 to 3 big asks from parents to show our support to your schools, what would be the top answers? How can we support you, the teachers and staff, best? What are 2 to 3 things you want us to tell our kids to make this successful from the start? It's a great question. I think I'll give one. How about that? One thing that I personally would just ask is that everyone keep in mind that we are in this job because we all love your kids and we love kids in general. And we know that it's been a really rough year. And many of us have our own children, and our children are in the exact same situation, and sometimes not as good of a situation as the ones are here. And we absolutely understand all of your frustrations, and we understand your upset. But please know that every single person that works in this district only cares for the safety and well-being of your children. And if you could, try to keep that in mind, I think that would make it a better environment for your kids, for the teachers, for us, for everyone, because we're going to get through this. And we're going to have many years in the future where we can look at this as a distant memory. But in the meantime, just hang in there with us, and we're not the enemy.
I think along those lines is your support and your appreciation and continued communication. The support means everything. We are in this together. So that's number one. And if I had to pick one.
And I would say the continued partnership. I have felt it since September, and the continued support. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we can ask for is the reciprocal trust. Just trust in the decisions that we are making, because we're making the decisions as if your children are our own. And we love them like they are our own. And that's what we would love for you to tell them, or at least I would, and I'm sure everyone here would. We love your children like they are our own, and they are going to be successful. They're taking something out of this experience, whether it is the strength to persevere, whether it's some type of technology piece that they would have never gotten at such a young age that they may use later on in life. Our children are going to come out of this the champions, and that is something that we will look back and be extremely proud of. We don't want our children to look back and feel that they failed at anything. We are here to support them. We are here to push them forward. We're here to prepare them, make them strong, and continue making them strong. So your partnership and your reciprocal trust and support is probably the biggest thing that we can ask for. And love. We are loving up your kids, whether they are in person or remote. And our teachers are doing exactly the same. And when they hop out of those cars in the morning with those cute little smiles on their faces, it doesn't matter that they're masked. We see it. They are happy. And that's what we want. We want their happiness and we want their success, but we also want them safe. So.
Yeah, I think, again, everyone that has spoken, there's really not a lot more to say. The number one thing that I would implore people to do is come up and ask us a question. Listen, social media is great for some things and it's terrible for others. But one thing that it's terrible at is giving you the answers that are truthful and the answers that you need with regards to what's going on in school. So, we're outside before school, we're outside after school, we're available through email, and we're available through a phone call. So if it is a building specific question, we don't have all the district answers, but we do have school-based answers. And we ask that you pick up the phone and give us a call or send us an email, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions to the best of our ability. You know, everyone said it, the health, safety, and welfare of your kids is number one, period. And nothing wavers nothing wavers, and it hasn't wavered than those decisions that we're making on a district level and a school level have your kids as number one, period. Now, we could disagree about that, and we can completely, you know, not, you know, understand the way that things work out, but we're more than happy to have discussions about why they happened and why we're doing what we're doing. But you need to reach out to us. You can't just you know, not give us the opportunity to answer and bring it to a different forum where I can guarantee you you're not getting the correct answers.
I just want to thank, we have several parents saying thank you and saying really nice things. So thank you to all of those people. I'm saying thank you individually, but I just want to say thank you in general. Oh, lots of more of those coming up.
Will gym be held outside if the
Oh.
weather allows, right?
Yes, I think at all of our schools, yes. We want our kids outside as much as possible. Okay. All right, it looks like we've just got a lot of thank yous at this point, which we all appreciate.
Appreciate that.
And we thank you. So we're going to give you the thank you right back, because we know that this is not easy at your homes, in your homes. So we thank you for what you have done in order to make us successful.
And I just have to say, as an outsider being new to the Westwood community before I came, I heard so many positive, wonderful things about the Westwood community. And just listening to some of those shout outs that have been going out from the parents, it's really living up to all the wonderful things I heard about this town before I came. So those have
Thank you,
been really
Mrs.
great.
Laura. All right, so at this time, we're going to wrap things up for the evening. Again, everyone, please, 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 if you have any questions, building specific, follow up with your building principal. We greatly appreciate your time. This has not, again, not been easy for anyone, but you know, we talked about cardinal pride at the board meeting last week, and that's exactly what's happening right now, and that's coming back out, and you are showing your support, and we totally understand your position and what you've been through, and absolutely it's frustrating, and you know, we want you to know that we're here with you, and we will do anything we can to assist you in any way that we can. So on that note, on behalf of the elementary administration, want to thank you again for your time, and everyone, please stay safe and have a wonderful evening.
Night.
Good night, all.
Thank you.